picking a very different subject to talk about today. Just wondered what everybody thought about this. If people are for putting the prisoners to death row, or if people are against it. I feel myself that you may not be able to help anybody in the sense of just knowing information. What I mean is, knowing information doesn't mean you can help anybody. But my first husband worked at this place called the Cotswold Community. It was a therapeutic community for highly disturbed children. And what they were hoping was they were getting children from inner cities and regressing them back and giving them everything that they had never had from their own families. I mean, some of these boys would go home in the holidays, they'd come back and they'd say, oh, my sister was raped. Or, you know, there was just so many things that these children were living with when they went home, or if they went home, or if they stayed. And this was more like a bit like a boarding school where these kids were there, but they were trying to supposedly regress them back and give them the things that they'd never had, even if they wanted to suck their thumb. I mean, some of them were diagnosed as psychotic, the whole thing, because of what they'd seen and what they'd been through. And I'm not making excuses when people do things wrong, because I think we do know when they're wrong. We always do. We don't need someone to tell us. But these children panic, they do all sorts of things. And some of them didn't do very nice things afterwards, you know, hurt people, kill people, as they've grown up and left. I knew one boy that had done that for £20. But every single one of these people are victims. They are victims of a victim of a victim of a victim. And I'm not making excuses. I don't want to upset anybody who's lost anybody or been, you know, someone's hurt them, stolen from them, or anything like that. I just started to watch stuff on death row, and some of these people are in there for hardly any evidence of anything at all. I mean, not DNA evidence and stuff like that, and they're sent to prison. And these places are so horrible. Wow, I'm just like, I know these things are there, I've seen them before, but it just got me this last couple of days. It just seemed that a lot of people, you know, when they get there, they're saying, I didn't do it. It wasn't me. And then you find out in some of these cases that the stuff is just fitted around them because they need someone to fit the bill to go to court. Oh, that's it, that's that case done. I'm not putting anybody down, but there are quite a few cases, even on death row, where these people have been released. See, there's a question of doubt. Question of doubt would kill someone. When I watched a programme on the television not that long ago that, you know, about nearly 40% of everybody they put to death is innocent, and they know this. Just people stuck in the wrong place, the wrong time. That doesn't take away the really violent ones, the ones where they've got all the evidence, doesn't take away from those. Those ones end up doing it in counties where they'll get life imprisonment. Anyway, I'm just going to explain a bit more, and then I was just going to ask, what's your thoughts to all this? Because this is what we're like as a society. This is where we go. This is what happens. Oh my goodness gracious me. Flat Earth covers everything, doesn't it? It covers why society is like it is. Our prisons are full of all these people. I just believe at least half, maybe 3/4 of the people that go to prison actually need support, help, counselling, whatever it is. It's more like that than prison, because they're victims of victims in a generational cycle of things that go on and what they see. And you know, these are children who've seen things and learnt things from other people. Because I mean, I've been looking at some of these videos, and some of these kids are really young when they go to prison. I mean, what they've done, even just in the heat of the moment, I'm just a bit like gobsmacked with. I'm not saying prison is easy anywhere in any country, and this isn't the only country that has the death penalty. But we don't have that here. Yeah, you may go to prison for the rest of your life, but you don't have to face losing your life anymore. And I've just been watching so many videos about, I don't know, it just got me the other day and I just started watching and watching and watching. And I just want to explain this one. This guy here was a child when his father killed someone in his house. And because he didn't report it, he got the same, well, in fact, I think he got a worse prison sentence than his father with the person that did it. What they did was, they sent this person, who was about 14 or 15, they put him on trial like an adult, right? It was his father that killed the person. It was his father who had abused this guy for a lot of his life. And for some reason, because the law is different in America than it is here. In America, if you are there and don't report it, you're just as guilty as the person that did it. And that's how they tried this person. He was a child. He was a child. You know, how would he know what his father was going to do? And they sentenced him and put him on death row. And over the years, this guy, you know, obviously he tried for his innocence. And I think something happened where an inmate was killed, I think. And what it was is they all blamed him. Says it definitely wasn't him. And if they'd done proper DNA testing from the death of this person, this inmate, rather than just blaming him, it would have proved that he hadn't done it. But he got blamed then for that as well. He goes in as a child. He's already been abused, seen horrible things. If you can go and look him up and listen to him talking, whenever a reporter comes or anything like that, he says it definitely wasn't him. And they say if they DNA tested, it would prove it wasn't him, but they didn't. There was he was fighting for DNA proof to show it wasn't him. But anyway, a few years ago, they executed him. He'd never really had a life. He'd never done anything wrong. And they executed an innocent person who was a child. Even Susan Sarandon is trying to be a campaigner to stop the death penalty. This guy here is called Richard Glossip, and he's been on death row, or he's been in prison since the late 1990s. And what it was is, he's probably another innocent man on death row. What it was is that his boss got murdered, and they said that in the end that he did it because he wanted the boss's money, and that he paid the handyman to kill him. When they caught up with the handyman, because obviously finding the dead person, investigation, the handyman person, can't remember his name now, I'm sorry, I've been watching so many videos, but he said to the police that he had done it and that he had never meant to kill him, and it was because he wanted the money. And then when they brought him in for questioning, you know, obviously they arrested him and they were questioning him, they told the other one that he was locked up in a cell next door. And basically, well, you know, we've got Richard. And then, before you knew it, the other guy said that he'd paid him to do it. This man has been sitting on death row for years without one piece of evidence to show he did it, right? Luckily, this team of people have found the fact that all the bookwork was in order because they said he stole the money. Now, the reason he had money on him, he says, he bought his girlfriend an engagement ring. He just got engaged, so he was obviously in a good place. And then what it was is when he was starting to get questioned, he realised he needed an attorney because someone told him, don't say another word, get an attorney. So that's why he'd sold stuff and that's why he had money on him. When they looked at the bookwork, only very recently, the bit where they thought he'd taken the money was just a projected amount, which the hotel didn't make. It made less than that. But there wasn't one penny taken, right? Not one. He was the manager. He did not take a penny. And he has been sitting on death row. He has nearly been put to death 2 or 3 times. I mean, I think one of the times they stayed it last year or the year before is because of the drugs. Because the drugs, they had the wrong drugs. This man has been moments away from dying. He was waiting to have the lethal injection. He was seconds away from dying when they realised that they had the wrong drugs. And he's had, I think, 2 stays of execution. Have you looked up the drugs that they give them? The first one is supposed to put them to sleep, so they're unconscious. The second one stops their lungs, and the third one stops their heart. And because doctors won't administer these drugs and they have to go and buy them sort of from other sources, most people take about 12 minutes to die. Quite often they're not unconscious and they're coming round. Maybe it knocks them out a bit, the first drug, but quite a lot of them are conscious, and then by the time, if they're still conscious by the time they get the third injection, it's the most excruciating death ever because it's complete burning, and that burning then until it stops the heart. And you just think, well, I personally, I wouldn't like any of them being shot, being hung, being gassed, all this. They're all horrible. And then you come across this. This is a list of those freed from death row. This is what they can be freed from. And there is a list of people. A list of people. And it goes on who was sent. Look at that. The average years between being sentenced to death and exoneration. Over 11 years. Living in this place. And then being freed. Because once they get the DNA or whatever it is, these people are innocent. So imagine, he could have put all of them to death, and they were all, those were innocent. This isn't to upset anybody that's lost someone, and you know, there are probably, and there are people who are definitely guilty, who admit it, who plead guilty, etc, etc, etc. But how can you execute someone when they didn't do anything except be a child in the wrong place? And how can you have someone else on death row because the guy that did it to get a plea bargain told the police that the other one did it, this Richard Glossop? I don't even know how they live in this place. It is horrible. I know that you go to prison and you've done something wrong, but I just think it's inhumane. They live, a lot of these people, right next to the room and they're going to be executed for years. And I'm sure a lot of them are, you know, quite happy that they get appeal to change this, but I just don't think this is the right way. I don't know what's the right way, but whoa, if this is what we're like, and this is how we deal with people, and this is what some of the people are like, doesn't it just show you what society's really like?